The stars above the Andromeda expanse shimmered like frozen fire. Fleets from 12 alien empires stood gathered in orbit around the neutral world of Kareth Prime. Their ships glowed with power, hulls forged from crystal, plasma, and living metal, the proud armies of the Galactic Union. At the center of it all, a small blue vessel waited, old, unimpressive, scarred. It was the TSS Endeavor, a Terran ship, the last representative of Earth. The chamber aboard Kareth's orbital station was filled with hundreds of alien delegates, reptilian generals, silicon diplomats, and plasma-bodied creatures who spoke in light rather than sound. They waited in silence as a lone human stepped forward. Ambassador Elijah Ward, tall, calm, dressed in a black Terran uniform. His eyes were tired but steady. He raised his voice so the translators could carry it to every corner of the room. "Leaders of the Union," he said, "we come with a warning, one we hope you will hear before it's too late." The Dravari overlord hissed, his armor gleaming gold. "A warning? From humans? You lost your colonies, your fleets, your pride. What could you possibly warn us about?" Elijah didn't flinch. "About yourselves. About what happens when you push a people too far." The chamber filled with laughter, harsh, cruel laughter that echoed off the walls. The Kalari Empress smirked. "Your planet hides behind isolation. Your kind refuses to share technology. You think the galaxy needs your permission to expand?" Elijah's tone stayed level. "We don't want war. But if you invade Terran space again, there will be consequences. You think we've been silent because we're weak?" He paused, then leaned closer. "But we've been silent because we were holding back." A murmur spread through the hall. The Union leaders exchanged looks, confusion, mockery, amusement, empty threats, the Overlord said. "Humanity no longer commands respect in this galaxy." Elijah sighed. "Respect isn't what you should fear." He pressed a button on his wrist device. The holoprojector beside him flickered to life, displaying dozens of star systems along the galactic border. Every one of them was marked in red. "These worlds," he said, "were human colonies, destroyed by your expansion. We asked for peace. You answered with conquest. You've crossed into Sol territory." The Kalari Empress rose from her throne-like chair, her voice like glass breaking. "And what will Earth do, human? Send your old ships? Throw rocks at our fleets?" Elijah looked straight at her. "No," he said quietly. "We'll end it." The lights in the room flickered. Every alien turned toward the window. Outside, the TSS Endeavor glowed with white light. "Ambassador!" someone shouted. "What are you—" The ship vanished. A second later, a shockwave rolled through the void. Every Union ship in orbit blinked offline, their engines dead, their weapons useless. The lights in the station went dark. Elijah's voice echoed through emergency comms. "This is your only warning. Leave Terran space. Never return." The static cut off. The humans were gone. Across the galaxy, panic spread. Worlds once fearless now trembled. What kind of weapon could disable entire fleets without firing a shot? The answer came 3 days later, when a Union scout ship entered the edge of Sol territory and never came back. Its final transmission was a burst of light and a single message. "You were warned." The Galactic Union gathered again in fear. The Overlord slammed his clawed fist onto the table. "They dare threaten us? They think we'll cower?" The Empress of Kalar glared at him. "You saw what happened to our ships. Whatever weapon they used, it could cripple the entire Union. And yet they remain few," the Overlord snarled. "We outnumber them 100 to 1. He turned to his generals. "Mobilize the fleets. If humanity wants war, we'll show them what war looks like." Far away, beneath the clouds of Earth, a massive facility stirred. Deep underground, among reactors older than the colonies themselves, the Terran Defense Network came online for the first time in 200 years. Rows of AIs awakened, scanning galactic transmissions, orbital cannons locked onto coordinates light years away. And in the command center stood Admiral Rhea Anders, the same name whispered across countless legends. Her hair was streaked with gray, her uniform simple, her voice unshakable. She looked out over the Earth's horizon and spoke to her crew. "They didn't listen to our warning," she said. "Now they'll remember why they once feared us." Behind her, the words flashed across the control screen, Project Sol Inferno. Activated, and for the first time in 2 centuries, the Terran war drums began to beat again. On the edge of known space, the Galactic Union's armada entered Sol territory, hundreds of ships, thousands of weapons. The Admiral's voice reached them through every open channel, calm and cold as the void. "This is Earth Command. You crossed the line. You were warned. Now you pay the price." The stars brightened. The void itself seemed to ignite, and the war for the galaxy began. The invasion began at dawn over Mars. The red planet burned brighter than its sun as the first wave of Galactic Union warships broke through the solar perimeter. They came in formation, sleek, perfect, and confident. The fleet stretched across the void like a metal storm, carrying billions of soldiers from a dozen species. Inside the Union flagship, Overlord Kareth stood tall on the command bridge, his golden armor gleaming. "Humanity will kneel," he hissed. "They warned us once. We will make them beg for peace." His second-in-command bowed. "Their defense satellites have activated, my lord, but their ships are few." "Victory is certain?" Kareth smiled. "Begin the cleansing." The Union fleet unleashed a barrage of plasma fire toward Mars. The bombardment lit the sky crimson, and for a moment, the human colonies seemed doomed. But then, something changed. Deep beneath Mars' northern pole, the ice cracked. A vast circular gate, ancient, mechanical, and half-buried, began to spin. Massive turbines roared to life, shaking the planet itself. On Earth, Admiral Rhea Anders stood in the Terran War Command Center, eyes locked on the data stream. "Is it ready?" she asked. Commander Darius Voss nodded. "Project Sol Inferno is fully charged. Once we engage, there's no going back." Rhea looked out the window toward the rising sun. "Then we begin," she turned to her crew. "Activate the solar array." From the orbital stations above Earth, 1,000 beams of light fired into space, each connecting to a massive satellite buried across the system. Power surged from Mercury's orbit to Neptune's edge. And on Mars, the buried gate, the Inferno Halo, came fully alive. The alien fleet's sensors went haywire. Their instruments couldn't read the energy surge building below. "Report," Kareth barked. "Unknown activity detected beneath the Martian crust," shouted his science officer. "The energy readings? They're off the charts." Before he could finish, the ground below split open. A massive pillar of light erupted from Mars, piercing the void. The beam spread across space, connecting with the Terran satellites in a chain reaction. It looked like a sunrise that filled the entire solar system. The Union fleet's shields flickered, then failed. Every ship that touched the Inferno field began to melt, metal liquefying, plasma fuel igniting from within. The void filled with fire. "Impossible!" Kareth roared. "What weapon is this?" His officers panicked. "Our reactors are collapsing. We're losing control." Kareth turned toward the hologram of Earth. "Shut it down. Do something!" But humanity wasn't listening. On Earth, Rhea watched the data screens fill with enemy losses. Entire squadrons were vanishing by the second. Darius whispered, "They never stood a chance." Rhea nodded slowly. They refused to listen. "Now they see." She opened a comm channel to the entire system. "This is Admiral Anders to all Terran forces. The galaxy wanted to test humanity's strength. Now, they'll learn what it costs to provoke us." Every soldier on every ship heard her words, and across the void, the Terran fleet advanced. 30,000 ships, rising from the shadows of moons and asteroid fields. They had been hiding for 2 centuries, rebuilding in secret. Now they returned, forged in silence, unstoppable. On the Union flagship, chaos reigned. The Overlord's fleet was in ruins. Half his ships were gone, the rest crippled. Communications were shattered. "Retreat!" one of his commanders shouted. "We must retreat!" Kareth struck him down with a single blow. "There is no retreat! I will not bow to primitives." He turned toward the tactical display. "Bring the solar spear online. If they wish for war, we'll destroy their star." The crew hesitated. "But my lord, that weapon—" Do it! The flagship's forward cannon glowed, a sun of its own being born at the ship's core. Back on the Titan's command deck, Rhea saw the readings spike. "They're targeting Sol itself," Darius said. "They're going to fire on the sun!" "Not if we fire first," Rhea replied. She activated the Terran Lance Array, a network of weapon platforms hidden behind Earth's orbit. Each was capable of destroying a moon. "Together they could erase a fleet," Rhea whispered. "Let the galaxy remember." The order came. Fire. The space between Earth and Mars became pure white. When the light faded, the Overlord's fleet was gone. Only silence remained. Sensors picked up drifting debris, fragments of gold, scorched armor, and shattered command ships. The mighty Galactic Union fleet was no more. Rhea stood quietly as the data stabilized. "Confirm status," she said softly. Stabilized. "Confirm status," she said softly. "Enemy fleet 97% destroyed," the technician reported. "The rest are retreating beyond the system edge." Rhea nodded. "Let them run. They'll carry the message." She turned to Darius. "Transmit it. This is Earth Command. To the Galactic Union, your war is over. We warned you. You refused our plea. Now you pay the price." As the message echoed across the galaxy, every world listened in silence. The humans had spoken, and this time, the stars listened, but in the shadows of deep space, far beyond known charts, a signal pulsed faintly, a warning that Earth's victory had not gone unnoticed. Something else had seen the fire, and it was watching. The war should have ended that day. The Galactic Union's greatest fleet burned to nothing in Sol's orbit. Should have been the last chapter. But the galaxy doesn't forget so easily, and neither does vengeance. The broadcast from Earth spread across every world within hours. It was simple, terrifying, and unforgettable. "We warned you. You refused our plea. Now you pay the price." Millions of beings across the stars heard it, some in fear, some in awe, and some in fury. On the ruined world of Karath Prime, the surviving Dravari commander, Overlord Kareth, stood among the ashes of his fallen soldiers. His armor was cracked, his pride shattered, but his eyes still burned with hate. He looked up at the darkened sky. "Humans," he whispered, his voice low and cold. "They think this war is over. They've only lit the first fire." Behind him, his aide limped forward. "My lord, the fleet is gone. The Union is in chaos. We should withdraw." Kareth turned sharply, claws tightening around the alien's throat. "Withdraw?" "No." He threw the officer aside. "We rebuild. And this time, we do not fight as empires divided. We fight as one." He activated his wrist device, broadcasting to the remnants of the Union. "This is Overlord Kareth of the Dravari Dominion. Humanity has declared war on the galaxy. Unite under me, and we will end their world." Across dozens of systems, damaged fleets received the message, and one by one, the surviving powers responded. "We will join you. For vengeance. For the fallen." The ashes of the Union began to stir again. Back on Earth, Admiral Rhea Anders stood before the Terran High Command. The chamber was vast, its walls alive with holographic projections of every colony and defense grid. "We won the battle," Rhea said, "but not the war." The counselors exchanged nervous glances. Counselor Hale leaned forward. "You destroyed their fleet. They won't risk another attack." Rhea's eyes were cold. "They will. Because we've shown them fear, and fear always seeks to destroy what it doesn't understand." Another counselor, an older man with a trembling voice, spoke up. "What are you suggesting, Admiral? That we strike again?" Rhea didn't answer immediately. She looked out the massive window where Earth's blue glow shimmered against the dark. "I'm suggesting we prepare for what comes next." Commander Darius Voss stepped forward, handing her a datapad. "We've been monitoring hyperspace frequencies since the battle. There's chatter across the sectors. The Union is rallying under Kareth." Rhea frowned. "Of course it is," she turned to her officers. "Then we'll remind them that mercy was our first choice, but not our last." On the far edge of the galaxy, a ship drifted in the silent void, a massive fortress carved from an asteroid. wrapped in energy fields older than most stars. Inside, the archivist of Athes, a being made of light and code, watched the transmissions of war unfold. Humans, it whispered to the darkness. The fire has returned to the galaxy, an ancient construct beside it hummed. You warned the council once before. They did not listen. The archivist's glowing eyes dimmed. No, and now the balance shifts again. Just as it did in the first cycle. What will you do? The construct asked. The archivist turned toward the stars. I will watch, but if humanity's fire spreads too far, we may have to awaken the others. Meanwhile, at Luna Defense Command, engineers worked around the clock, building new weapons and ships. Massive dreadnoughts rose from shipyards hidden beneath the moon's surface. The Terran Armada, once a relic, was now a living force. Rhea walked through the hangar bay, her boots echoing on the metal floor. Thousands of soldiers stood in rows, silent and ready. Darius walked beside her. The fleet's morale is high. They think this war will be short. Rhea stopped. They're wrong. This won't be short. It won't be glorious. It'll be survival. She turned to face him. They think they know war. But they've never fought the whole galaxy. Darius frowned. Do you think we can win? Rhea looked toward the blackness beyond the hangar doors. Winning isn't the point. Enduring is. 3 weeks later, humanity struck first. A Union stronghold near Eleron 9, a world used to stage invasions against Terran colonies, was hit by a single ship. The TSS Valiant entered orbit without warning, released a pulse, and vanished. The planet's entire defense network shut down. Within minutes, its power grids melted. The cities went dark. Survivors on the surface reported a strange, echoing sound from the sky, a voice repeating the same message. You were warned. The story spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Some saw it as vengeance. Others saw it as justice. But to most, it was a warning. Humanity had returned to war. On Dravari Prime's ruins, Kareth watched the news feeds. He clenched his fists until his claws cut his palms. So be it, he whispered. If Earth wants fire, they'll drown in it. He turned to his generals. Activate the artifact. The chamber lights dimmed. A vast structure, black, ancient, and humming with alien symbols, rose from the ground. What is that? One of the generals asked. Kareth's eyes glowed. A relic from before the first stars. A weapon older than time. The humans have their inferno. He grinned darkly. We have the abyss. As the machine roared to life, the stars themselves seemed to flicker, and far away, deep in the shadows of space, Rhea Anders felt the disturbance before sensors detected it. She whispered to herself, they've just made their final mistake. The galaxy burned again, brighter, louder, and deadlier than before. But this time, the fire had a shape, and it was human. The stars of the outer rim dimmed one by one. Ships passing near Dravari space reported flickering sensors, failing engines, and a strange hum that made even the strongest soldiers tremble. Something ancient had awakened. On the shattered remains of Dravari Prime, the war-torn homeworld of Overlord Kareth, thunder rolled across the blackened skies. Massive machines rumbled deep underground, pulling energy from the planet's core. In the center of the ruins, Kareth stood before a colossal structure, a black pyramid covered in alien symbols that glowed faintly red. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The Dravari scientists knelt in fear. My lord, one whispered, the readings are rising. The energy signature, it's not of this galaxy. Kareth's claws clicked against his armor as he stared at the pyramid. Good. Let them feel what they awakened. He turned to his war council. When the humans destroyed our fleets, they burned our pride. Now we burn their stars. A general hesitated. This weapon, what does it do? Kareth smiled slowly. It doesn't destroy. It consumes. At his signal, the command was given. The artifact, codenamed Abyss Engine, awakened. Across the galaxy, hyperspace trembled. The stars near Dravari Prime began to twist, their light bending, their gravity fluctuating unnaturally. The abyss had begun to feed. At Luna Command, alarms screamed through the Terran fleet. Admiral Rhea Anders rushed to the holotable as red alerts flashed across every display. Report! Commander Darius Voss spoke quickly. A gravity pulse just swept through 5 sectors. It's not a weapon. It's a phenomenon. Entire systems have gone dark. Ria's eyes narrowed. Dravari Prime. He nodded grimly. Exactly. Whatever they unleashed, it's eating stars. The room went silent. The words sounded impossible, but the data was clear. A spreading black field was devouring the edges of the galaxy, not burning worlds, but erasing them. Estimate time until it reaches the nearest Terran outpost? Ria asked. 3 days. She clenched her fists. Get me visual feed. The screen flickered. For a brief moment, it showed a burning horizon where a sun used to be. Then nothing. A void, darker than space itself. On Dravari Prime, the sky was chaos. The pyramid tore open, releasing black fire that rose like smoke. The ground cracked and floated into the air as if gravity had given up. Kareth watched from his war balcony, his voice low and triumphant. They thought they held power. Now they will see what true power looks like. One of his scientists crawled forward. My lord, we cannot control it. The abyss is consuming everything, even our ships. Kareth turned his head slightly. Then it works. The scientist tried to protest. But it will consume us too. Kareth's eyes glowed crimson. Then we die as gods. Meanwhile, deep in the asteroid belts beyond Jupiter, Terran engineers worked feverishly. The fleet had gathered, hundreds of ships, each armed with new plasma cores forged from Project Sol Inferno's technology. Admiral Anders stood at the helm of the TSS Titan II. Humanity's most powerful warship. All systems online? She asked. Online, Admiral, the tech officer replied. But if that thing keeps spreading, even these ships won't matter. Ria's tone was cold and sure. Then we stop it before it grows. She turned to Darius. Contact every remaining Union world. Tell them this isn't a Terran weapon. It's their overlords doing. Terran weapon. It's their overlords doing. Darius smirked. You really think they'll believe us after we nearly wiped them out? Ria looked out into the void. They don't have to believe. They just have to survive. A transmission came through. A shaky signal from a Kalari scout ship near the Abyss Zone. Terran Command. This is Kalari Vessel Seren's cry. We were investigating Dravari space. The stars are gone. Not destroyed, gone. We tried to flee, but it's following us. Static crackled, and then a faint whisper filled the channel. It watches. It remembers. Then silence. The transmission ended. Every officer in the room looked at Ria. What was that voice? One asked softly. Ria stared at the blank screen. Something that shouldn't exist. In the void around Dravari Prime, the abyss spread like a living storm. Ships caught at its edge were pulled inward, their hulls stretching and collapsing as time itself seemed to distort. From its center, a figure appeared. A being made of darkness and flame, vast and formless. Its eyes burned like dying suns. It spoke not in words, but in thought. And every mind within range felt it. You burn too brightly, children of Sol. The light you love will feed us well. Kareth fell to one knee, trembling under its presence. I have awakened you. Now destroy them! The being's voice deepened, echoing through the entire system. You awakened hunger. Hunger does not obey. And with that, the shadow turned its gaze upon him. At Luna command, the sensors detected the impossible. The abyss field has expanded again, Darius said. Dravari Prime is gone. Ria looked up sharply. What do you mean, gone? He swallowed. It's not even debris. There's nothing there. Ria's jaw tightened. Then we're next. She turned to her fleet officers. Prepare the Inferno Protocol. We end this now. Her voice dropped, steady but fierce. We warned the galaxy once. Now we'll save it, even if it kills us. In the depths of the abyss, the shadow moved closer to the Sol system, feeding on the dying light of the stars. And in its wake, Kareth's last message echoed faintly across the void. I wanted revenge, but I created oblivion. The humans listened. And for the first time, even humanity felt fear. Because the war was no longer between species. It was between light and hunger, and the galaxy had just gone dark. The galaxy trembled. Stars vanished in silence. Worlds blinked out as if erased by an unseen hand. The Abyss, the weapon Overlord Kareth had unleashed, no longer obeyed anyone. It moved with hunger, devouring suns, feeding on gravity and life alike. Every transmission it touched ended in static. Every beacon it passed went dark. For the first time, Earth Command faced an enemy that could not be reasoned with, fought, or even fully understood. At Luna Defense Command, alarms painted the walls in red light. Admiral Rhea Anders stood at the center of the chaos, her expression carved from stone. Commander Darius Voss rushed to her side, holding a datapad that shook in his hands. "The Abyss has expanded again," he said. "4 more systems gone. Not destroyed, gone." Rhea didn't blink. "Time until it reaches Sol?" 3 days. Silence fell. The war room, filled with the best minds humanity had, suddenly felt smaller. Rhea looked around the table. "We've been preparing for war, but this is extinction. If the Abyss reaches our star, there won't be an after." Dr. Hannah Reed, the lead scientist from Project Sol Inferno, stepped forward. "There's one option, Admiral. But it's not a weapon. It's a suicide switch." Rhea met her eyes. "Explain." Hannah brought up a hologram showing the entire Sol system. "When we built the Inferno Halo, we connected every planet through solar conduits. It allows us to project energy across the system instantly. If we reverse the charge, we could collapse all energy into one point." Darius frowned. "You mean detonate the entire solar network?" Hannah nodded. "Exactly. A solar implosion. The shockwave could tear open the Abyss from within." Rhea's voice was quiet but firm. "And what happens to us?" Hannah hesitated. "Everything inside the system dies." The room filled with murmurs. Some officers argued to flee, others to fight, but Rhea raised her hand. The noise stopped. "We warned the galaxy once," she said softly. "They didn't listen. We held back and they mocked us. Now something far worse threatens all life, and there's no one else left to stand against it." She looked each officer in the eye. "If humanity must burn to stop this, then we burn. But we'll make sure the universe survives to remember who saved it." Her voice echoed through the chamber like a vow. "Activate Inferno Protocol." Across the solar system, ancient satellites and dormant ships came online. On Mercury, giant reactors began to glow. On Venus, clouds of plasma churned into controlled storms. Even the icy moons of Neptune sparked with power as the conduits awoke. The Inferno Halo was ready, but time was running out. From the edge of the galaxy, the Abyss moved faster, its black fire devouring light itself. Within its depths, shapes began to form, vague, monstrous things made of shadow and heat. It wasn't just a weapon, it was alive. In the command deck of the TSS Titan II, Rhea watched the growing darkness on the holographic display. It looked like a living storm swallowing stars. "Transmit a final message to every world still listening," she ordered. Darius nodded. "What do we say?" Rhea thought for a moment, then spoke with steady conviction. "This is Admiral Rhea Anders of Earth Command. The Abyss is coming. We will stop it here, even if we fall. Humanity stands. Humanity fights, and if we must die, the stars will burn with us." The message was sent. Somewhere out there, beings from dozens of species listened in stunned silence. The humans, once mocked as primitive, were preparing to sacrifice their entire system to save the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, alien empires bowed their heads, not in fear, but in respect. Hours later, the Abyss reached the edge of Sol sensors failed instantly. Communications went black. The fleet stood ready. Every human ship in formation around Earth. The Titan's engines glowed like small suns. Darius turned to Rhea. "Inferno is charged." "Final confirmation?" She looked out the viewport. Earth shimmered below, calm and blue. "Final confirmation," she whispered. Hannah's voice came through the comms. "Admiral, once we start the chain, there's no reversing it. You'll have to reach the detonation core manually." Rhea nodded. "Then we finish what we started." She turned to her crew. "All ships, focus on containment. If the Abyss breaches the core before we trigger it, everything's lost." The black wave arrived. Every screen went white. Enemy shadows, massive, shapeless, crashed into the Terran fleet. The humans fought back with everything they had. Railguns, plasma beams, nuclear torpedoes, none of it mattered. The abyss swallowed them whole, bending reality as it advanced. The Titan shook violently. Flames erupted along the bridge. Darius shouted over the noise, "Hull breach on decks 5 through 9! Shields failing!" Rhea steadied herself. "Keep firing! Don't let it reach the core!" A blast threw her to the ground. She climbed back up, blood on her face, eyes blazing. She opened a channel to all surviving ships. "You want to know what humanity is?" she said. "We're the fire that never dies. We warned you once, but now we show you." She pressed her hand on the detonator. "Engage Inferno." The sun flared brighter than it ever had before. A wave of pure light spread outward, ripping through the abyss. The shadows screamed, their shapes unraveling as the solar core collapsed in on itself. The light engulfed everything. Ships, planets, stars, turning the Sol system into a single, blinding beacon. For a moment, the galaxy saw it. A flash so bright it outshone every sun, then silence. Days later, the light faded. Where the Sol system once was, there remained only a faint, glowing sphere, a single spark of energy floating in the void. And from that spark, a voice whispered across the stars. "We warned you. We fought, we burned, so you could live." The signal repeated once, then was gone. The abyss had vanished. Humanity had vanished. But the galaxy was saved. And in the darkness where Earth once shone, a small, steady flame flickered, refusing to go out, because even in death, the fire endured. The galaxy was quiet, too quiet. The Sol system, once home to humanity's brightest flame, was now a single point of glowing light in the void. Where 8 planets had once danced around a living sun, there was only emptiness. The Inferno protocol had worked. The abyss was gone, but so was Earth. For weeks, sensors from every corner of the galaxy scanned the silent region, searching for any sign of life. None came back. Only static and a faint rhythmic pulse, like a heartbeat. On the Kalari homeworld, inside the Council of Rebirth, leaders from over a dozen surviving species gathered. The war was over, but victory had a terrible cost. Ambassador Velthren of the Kalari stood before a massive hologram showing the remnants of the Sol region. "The humans are gone," he said softly. "Their sun collapsed. Their fleets destroyed. Yet, they saved us all." Across the table, the insectoid Rilka Prime tapped her claws nervously. "And we mocked them," she hissed. "We called them savages. Now they are legends," a reptilian general grunted. "Legends don't stop wars. We must decide what happens next." Velthren looked at him sharply. "What happens next is that we remember them." He activated a recording, Earth's final message. Admiral Rhea Anders' voice filled the chamber. "If humanity must burn to stop this, then we burn. But we'll make sure the universe survives to remember who saved it." The room fell silent. Velthren bowed his head. "They burned, and we survived. We owe them more than silence." Far from the council, in the wreckage of the Dravari frontier, scavenger ships floated through the remains of Kareth's fleet. The airless void was filled with drifting debris, dead ships, and twisted metal. But one of the scavengers, the Salvation's Edge, picked up a signal. "Captain," the technician shouted. "I'm getting a reading, faint but consistent. It's coming from Sol's Edge." Captain Nira Dalen, a hardened traitor who had once fought against humans, frowned. "That's impossible. The system's gone. Then what's this?" The tech replied. "It's a human frequency. Old military code." Nira's heart pounded. "Put it through!" The speakers crackled. And then faintly came a voice. "This is Titan II. Life support critical. Inferno core stable. We are still here." The crew froze. Nira whispered, "By the stars." The humans survived. Back at the Council of Rebirth, the discovery hit like a supernova. Every empire turned its sensors toward the faint human signal. Within hours, small scout fleets were dispatched to verify it. But as they approached the remains of Sol, strange anomalies appeared. Time itself seemed fractured. Ships reported being pulled off course, sensors glitching, even communications looping back in time. One Kalari captain swore he saw Earth, whole and blue, before it vanished again like a mirage. The scientists argued it was just residual energy from the Inferno blast. But the whispers spread. The humans still lived, caught in the heart of the fire. Inside the shimmering void where the sun once burned, something stirred, deep within the glowing sphere. Pieces of the TSS Titan II floated in orbit around a strange new core of light. Inside the wreckage, life signs flickered weakly. Admiral Rhea Anders opened her eyes to silence. Her body ached. The air was thin. Alarms blinked dimly in the control room. She coughed, looking around. "Darius." From the far side of the wreck, a voice answered, weak but alive. "Still here, Admiral. Barely." Rhea smiled faintly. "Status?" Darius looked at his console. "We're inside." "Something." The soul core didn't collapse. It transformed. "The Inferno energy's keeping us alive." Rhea turned toward the viewport. What she saw stole her breath. Outside, space shimmered with light and color. Fragments of Earth's oceans, clouds, and even mountain ranges floated like ghostly memories in the void. It was as if the entire solar system had been remade, not destroyed, but reborn. "We didn't die," Rhea whispered. "We changed," Darius frowned. "Admiral, look closer." Beyond the light, she saw them. Faint silhouettes forming from the plasma clouds, human forms. Millions of them. Each figure glowed with pale golden light, rising slowly into the void. They weren't alive in the physical sense, but they weren't gone either. "The Inferno Protocol," she murmured. "It didn't just destroy us. It fused our energy into the system." Rhea placed her hand on the glass. "Humanity became the fire." Outside the glow, alien ships arrived, stopping at the edge of the anomaly. Kalari scientists, Dravari survivors, and even Rilka scouts stared in silence. The sight before them was breathtaking, an ocean of light shaped like the human solar system. Alive and pulsing, from the center came a voice. Not mechanical, not alien, but human. "To those who survive us, protect what we saved. Do not repeat our mistakes. Humanity endures in the flame. And one day, we will return." The entire galaxy heard it. The message spread across every world, every outpost, every ship. It wasn't just a transmission. It was an echo in the mind, as if the fire itself spoke. Vel Thren, watching from his observation deck, whispered. They became part of the stars. In the years that followed, no empire dared to wage war again. A new age began, an era called the Silence of Fire. And above every world that once fought humanity, lights began to appear in the sky, small, flickering embers, forming constellations shaped like Terran symbols. Children grew up hearing stories of the humans, the species that burned itself to save the galaxy. But in the quiet edges of space, within the shimmering sphere that was once Sol, a pulse continued to beat. Each day, it grew stronger, and far beyond time. Somewhere in that light, Rhea Anders' voice whispered again, "This is Earth Command, and we are not finished. The flame still lived. Humanity was returning." The galaxy had not seen light from Sol in a century. What once was the human home system had become a shimmering anomaly, a sphere of living energy, silent yet alive. They called it the Halo Remnant. For generations, the galaxy watched it, studied it, even feared it, but no one dared to enter it until now. On the bridge of the Kalari exploration vessel Horizon's Grace, Captain Vel Thren stood before the observation window, staring at the glowing sphere ahead. It pulsed slowly, like a giant heartbeat in space. "Energy levels are stable," his science officer reported. "But the radiation signature is changing again. It's rhythmic, almost like language." Vel frowned. "Run translation protocols." Static filled the comms, and then a voice, faint but clear, echoed through the bridge. "This is Earth Command. Signal integrity at 67%. Reinitializing Soul Network. The crew froze. No one spoke. Velthran whispered, "Impossible." Within the halo remnant, light began to swirl faster, folding inward like a storm forming from within itself. Across its surface, shapes emerged, glowing silhouettes of ships, cities, and even continents. Humanity's memory was reconstructing itself. At the very center of the light, deep within what had once been the sun, the remains of the TSS Titan II floated in a calm sea of radiance. Inside, Admiral Rhea Anders opened her eyes again. She no longer breathed air. She no longer needed to. Her body glowed faintly, her veins pulsing with golden energy instead of blood. She rose from the command chair as the bridge came to life around her. Holographic panels powered by light itself flickered into being. Darius Voss appeared beside her, alive, but changed. His outline shimmered, half energy, half form. He smiled faintly. "You're awake, Admiral." Rhea looked around. "How long?" Darius gazed out the viewport. "Time doesn't flow the same here. But outside, I think it's been 100 years. She closed her eyes, remembering the blast, the sacrifice, the silence. "Then it worked. It worked," Darius said quietly. "The abyss is gone. The galaxy survived." Rhea nodded slowly. "And humanity?" He smiled. "Still here, just not as we were." Outside the halo, ships from dozens of species gathered at a cautious distance. Kalari, Rilka, even the reformed Dravari Confederation, all watched as Sol's light grew brighter. Velthren's communications officer gasped. "Captain, the halo's expanding." The screen flared with golden light. A massive shape emerged, sleek, sharp, unmistakably human. A Terran warship forged from pure energy. It wasn't metal. It wasn't matter. It was light given form. The entire galaxy held its breath. Inside the Titan II, Rhea watched the systems fully awaken. The computer spoke in a familiar human voice. "Welcome back. Admiral, Project Regenesis complete. Status, humanity restored." She turned to Darius. "Regenesis?" He nodded. "Before Inferno Protocol was triggered, Hana uploaded our genetic and neural data into the solar network. The energy from the explosion didn't kill us. It rebuilt us." Rhea looked down at her glowing hands. "We became part of the light." "And now," Darius said, "we're coming back." Rhea smiled faintly. "Then let's make it official." She activated the command channel. Across every frequency in the galaxy, a single transmission burst forth, calm, steady, unmistakably human. "This is Admiral Rhea Anders of Earth Command. The fire you thought lost has returned. Humanity endures. And we remember." The message echoed across the stars. On every world, people stopped to listen. Children who had only heard legends of humanity looked up in awe. In the Dravari capital, the new chancellor bowed his head in silence. They truly were gods of their own making. In the Kalari council chamber, Velthren stood proudly. "No," he said softly. "They were human, and that is far greater." Inside the halo, humanity was reborn. Billions of consciousnesses once lost in the Inferno field began to reform, not as flesh and bone, but as beings of luminous energy. They remembered everything, the wars, the losses, the promise they made before they burned. Rhea stood at the command center as the first fleet of Lightborn Terrans launched from the reconstructed Titan II. Their ships moved like comets, leaving trails of golden light behind. Darius turned to her. "What now, Admiral?" "We've come back. But what's next?" Rhea watched the stars outside the halo, the same stars that had once feared humanity. "Now," she said quietly, "now we rebuild, but not as conquerors, as guardians." She paused, her voice soft but strong. "The galaxy has lived in peace because of our sacrifice. Now, we'll keep it that way." As the halo remnant pulsed brighter, waves of light spread outward across the galaxy. They didn't destroy. They healed. Dying stars reignited. Broken worlds bloomed with green. The fire that once burned to destroy now gave life. Every being across the galaxy watched in silence as the legend of humanity took its final form, not as warriors of vengeance, but as keepers of light. And in that moment, even the coldest corners of space seemed to glow. Even the coldest corners of space seemed to glow. At the heart of it all, Rhea Anders stood beneath the golden sky of reborn soul. She smiled, her voice calm and resolute. We warned the galaxy once, then we burned to save it. Now we rise again, not to rule, but to remind. Her eyes turned toward the stars. We are humanity. The fire never dies. The light expanded once more, engulfing the void in brilliance. And in that endless glow, the age of darkness finally ended. The galaxy was at peace. For the first time in thousands of years, no wars raged, no empires clashed. Stars that had gone cold were rekindled, and planets once barren now bloomed again under the soft golden glow of the halo remnant. Humanity's fire had not only survived, it had transformed. The Lightborn, the new evolution of humankind, no longer needed ships of metal or homes of stone. They were energy and will, light and memory. Yet they remembered what it meant to be human. And because they remembered, they watched over all life. At the center of the reborn Sol system, Admiral Rhea Anders stood within the Radiant Command deck of the TSS Titan II, now reconstructed entirely from living light. Her form shimmered faintly, her features human but ethereal. Around her, the galaxy pulsed with harmony. Civilizations rebuilding, colonies flourishing, old enemies working side by side. Commander Darius Voss, still at her side after centuries, smiled softly. They've learned from our fire, Admiral. For once, peace is real. Rhea nodded. Peace isn't the end of struggle. It's the start of understanding, he chuckled. You sound like one of those ancient philosophers you used to hate reading. She smiled faintly. Maybe dying gives you time to think. They both turned toward the stars. The halo's glow extended far beyond Sol now, a beacon across the galaxy, lighting the void. But beneath that light, something stirred. In the eye, deep dark beyond the known sectors, on the edge of the Veil expanse, an explorer drone from the Kalari Confederation drifted through empty space. Its scanners flickered, then froze. The data feed went silent. Moments later, a shadow appeared where there should have been none. Black tendrils stretched across the void, faintly pulsing like veins returning to life. The abyss was not entirely gone. And it was awakening. In Sol's orbit, alarms flared across the Titan II's command screens. Darius's expression darkened. Admiral, we're getting gravitational disturbances beyond the galactic rim. Faint, but familiar. Rhea's gaze hardened. Show me. A hologram of the outer systems appeared, showing faint distortions moving slowly toward the galactic core. Slow, steady, relentless. It's the abyss, Darius said quietly. Fragments of it at least. Rhea's voice was calm but resolute. Of course it is. Nothing that ancient dies easily. Darius frowned. Should we alert the other empires? Rhea shook her head. Not yet. If they see another war coming, they'll panic. We'll handle this the way we always have. He looked at her curiously. Alone? She met his eyes. No, as humanity. The Lightborn assembled. From every star humanity had touched, glowing figures gathered, millions of radiant forms, unified in purpose. They were no longer bound by distance or time. They could move faster than light, think as one, and shape energy itself. At their head stood Rhea, her presence shining brighter than any sun. Children of Earth, she said, her voice echoing through the cosmos. Once we burned to save the galaxy. Now something seeks to consume it again. We will not let the darkness return. The Lightborn answered as one, their voices like thunder and music combined. We are humanity. The fire endures. They traveled beyond the stars, farther than any species had gone before, past nebulae, past dying suns, past the edge of known creation itself. There, in the eternal dark, they found it, the remnant of the abyss, pulsing faintly, reshaping itself like a wounded beast. Rhea floated forward, surrounded by her luminous fleet. "It's smaller than before," she said, "but it's learning." The shadow seemed to sense them. It stretched, forming a face, one of countless eyes and mouths, whispering in 1,000 voices. Fire returns, to feed us again. The light-born energy flared. The shadow recoiled under their light. Rhea raised her hand. No, the fire no longer feeds, it purifies. The light-born extended their energy toward the darkness. Golden light met black void, creation against consumption. The two forces collided, the explosion rippling through dimensions. Time bent. Space screamed. In that moment, every world in the galaxy saw the flash. Even those who didn't know humanity felt something deep within. A warmth, a memory, a whisper. "We are with you." When the light faded, the abyss was gone. Not destroyed, transformed. Where it had once been, a new cluster of stars glimmered into being, pure, white, and alive. The Lightborn drifted among them, silent and at peace. Darius turned to Rhea. "It's over." She looked around the newborn stars. "Nothing's ever truly over, but now, the balance is right again." He smiled faintly. "So, what happens to us now?" Rhea's expression softened. "We rest. Humanity's purpose was never to rule. It was to endure, to guide the flame until the galaxy could carry it itself." She turned toward Sol's distant glow, now visible across the stars. "We've done our part. Let them write their own light now." Centuries passed. The Lightborn faded into myth. Across countless worlds, civilizations thrived under the soft golden glow of the Terran dawn. Children looked up at the constellations and whispered stories of the humans who became stars. And on the oldest of those worlds, a spark flickered once more, a spark that looked suspiciously human. A young explorer looked up from the sands of a new planet, the sky burning with light. He turned to his friend and asked, "Do you think the stories are true, about the ones who saved everything?" His friend smiled. Maybe they're watching us right now." High above them, a faint shimmer of gold crossed the sky, gone in an instant, but bright enough to make them pause. And somewhere, beyond sight and time, Admiral Rhea Anders's voice whispered one last time. "The fire never dies. It only finds a new home." The galaxy burned bright once more, not in war, but in memory, and humanity's light lived forever.